Have you ever tried to use a pair of dimpling pliers? Today, author and instructor Kate Richbourg shows us how to cut, form, and texture metal using these pliers and other handheld tools. Welcome, Kate. I'm looking forward to learning how to make this great leaf-shaped pendant.
Oh, thanks, Katie.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for having me. We're going to have fun.
It's beautiful, and what a great way to create some texture, make your own shapes, and bring it all together.
Yeah, these pliers are really great for texturing and shaping metal. I can't wait to share it with you.
Well, I think a lot of people haven't seen them before.
Yeah. Well, do you want to take a look at the pliers now?
Let's take a look.
Okay, so what I've got here is I've got an assortment of the 4 pliers right out. And you can see, Katie, I've made some little samples here that have what the different dimples look like after you've dimpled the metal with them. And on this piece here, this is the tiny dimpling plier, and you can see I have the dimples go both ways. They go in or they come up and be a raised relief on the metal. So you can use it either way.
Sure, so depending just which side you're using, I guess, or which side is the front and the back, and you have
And
a
the back,
relief.
yeah, and you can
Smart.
switch it around, and you can see that on the sample as well, how I use both sides of the plier.
Right, very good.
All right, so to begin to get the leaves started, I've created some templates here. And I thought leaves would be a great project, or kind of a great shape for this project, because they're kind of natural and organic, and I think these pliers really lend themselves to that type of design.
Definitely.
So I've got 3 different shapes here, and you can do something similar like this, or you can be as creative as you want with your designs. And I just traced them on some cardboard and cut them out, and I'm going to use that as my template.
Okay.
Now I'll come in, and you can see I have some metal here that I'm going to make my leaf shape out of. This is a 24 gauge copper metal, but you could use any type of metal that you like. Any good jewelry metal will work. And the 24 gauge I like. It's a good size to work with these dimpling pliers, but you could go up to 22 gauge or even down to 26.
All right, so the heavier gauges will just be you'll need a little bit of a firmer compression.
Yeah,
on
a
the
little
tools.
more muscle behind it. So here's my template, and I've placed it on my metal, and I just use a permanent marker to trace the line around like so. And you can see I've used, this is about a 3x3 square piece of metal, and you can see I'm able to get 2 leaves on that square.
Yeah, and you just always want to use the most surface as possible, the most area in your metal, so that you don't have a lot of wasted parts.
Right, exactly. And so, and then these little extra bits you can make something else out of later.
Sounds
Put them in
good.
your scrap bin. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut these leaves out, and I have some metal shears here. And some people, I think, worry about cutting metal. Just think of this as a regular pair of scissors and a piece of paper. It's the same thing. You just happen to be cutting metal. So you can see I'm just cutting right around on the line, taking little bites out of the metal with my shears like that. And you can see with the shear, Katie, it gives me a nice clean, ready to go, almost ready to go edge. The thing about your shears is we want to make sure that your shears are straight and smooth, not serrated, and that's what gives you that straight edge.
That makes a lot of sense. You want to keep it smooth so you have less work to do when
Right.
you're filing.
Exactly. And so that's just what we're going to do right now is we're going to do some filing. You can see here's that leaf shape that I've cut. Now I'm just going to refine it a little bit using a half round file. And I'm just going to come in and give it a few little swipes with my file back and forth all the way around until everything is nice and smooth and ready to go.
All right.
Okay.
Perfect.
So now our friend, the leaf, is almost ready to shape. But with the dimpling pliers, since we are moving the metal, we've cut the metal, we've filed the metal, so it might be a little stiff and hard to work. We're going to anneal it. And annealing, we use the torch, and this is just a simple propane torch that I got the tank as well as the torch head just in your local hardware store. I like using this torch for annealing because the flame is large and it lets me anneal pretty quickly.
This is great because then people don't have to have a special kind of torch to get started on a project like
Yeah,
this.
exactly, and it's very pretty affordable as
All
well.
right.
So we make sure that we're both wearing our glasses, and since we have short hair, we're not going to be leaning over, but if you do,
Take some safety precautions.
take some safety precautions for sure. Now this torch is pretty simple. I'm just going to pop it on here. This is the ignition, but first I just start by releasing the propane, and we pop it on. Now I'm going to come in and I'm going to heat this leaf, And you can see as I'm heating, the metal starts to darken. Can you see that color coming up?
Yeah. I
And-
also want to mention that you have the solderite board under there, and you're working on top of a tile to protect your surface.
Exactly. We don't want to be doing this right on your table. We want to be doing this on a soldering surface. So once I've got that color, I'm going to go ahead and turn my torch off here. And we're going to set the torch aside to make sure that I don't knock it over because it is warm. Once I've done the annealing and heating it with that torch, you can see how dark the color is. But I'm going to come in and I'm going to give it a quench in my quenching bowl. Now, you can see some of that darkening has actually lightened up a bit. And I like to use this coloration for the actual color of my leaf.
So the fire scale is really adding to the color.
Yeah,
of your
I think
finished
so.
piece.
I think it looks really nice. We're going to do some other patina techniques in a little bit, but this is the start of that. So now we're ready to start dimpling with our pliers. So you can see here, I have this little leaf that's ready to go. I've used the tiny dimpling plier to start kind of laying out a design for the leaf. Now I'm going to go to my medium-sized dimpling plier there, and I'm just going to come in and start to compress the plier into the metal. Now you can see with the head of the tool, there's a little knob or a little kind of a nub on one side and a little well on the other. Depending on which way you orient that little knob on the plier, your dimple either goes up or it goes down.
Right.
And I think they're both really effective uses.
And do you need to use a lot of pressure when you're using this type of tool?
No, not at all. This, since the metal is annealed and it's so thin, it's pretty easy to use.
Okay.
And you can come in, you can also do some of the edges and things like this.
Oh, that looks great too.
Yeah, I've got this guy here, and you can see how I've made the dimples all the way along. Let's actually make some little edges, flute the edges with that small dimpling plier.
Okay, sure.
And I can come in, see that one's just a little bit tinier. And the edges, I think using this plier right along the edge gives you a nice fluted.
Yeah, I could see
Ruffled
applications
edge.
for that on all kinds of projects where you just want the edge to be a little bit more finished. Even if
Yeah.
it isn't a leaf, it could be any type of shape, like you say.
Yeah, and it really, I just think it adds a nice little extra touch.
Definitely.
So the dimpling pliers I think are fantastic, and I use them quite a bit on, like you say, a lot of
It's a
different
great way to get
projects.
texture.
Yeah. So let's add a little bit more texture to this piece. Now I have a hammer over there, Katie, that I want to show you. This is a hammer that has a couple of different ways to use it. You can change the heads out of this guy, and it's really simple. All this does is this unscrews, and you place one of the new heads in. And the heads come in a variety of textures as well. So you have like 12 hammers in one. It's great.
That is great, and it gives
Yeah.
you a lot of different options.
The thing I also really like about this one is it has a nylon head. So if my leaf was a little over fluted, let's say like right here, and I want to do a little bit of texturing on it, I'll flatten it first using that nylon head. Then I can turn it over and come in and just make a few little strikes. But see how I'm getting that texture there?
Yes, and it really adds a lot of depth to the metal too.
Yeah, and it's a good addition. Dimpling pliers plus this texturing hammer, really you get a lot of interest with that leaf.
Right.
So now we're going to come in and do a little bit of patina with this.
And those recesses will allow you to bring out the color too. When you're adding different patinas, it really shows some different contrast.
Yeah, exactly, and that's why I really like doing the patinas on these leaves with all of this, texture and stuff on it. I think it really makes it look nice. I've got some metal patina here, and you can see we have some of that fire scale patina going on here. All I need to do with this is do a couple of little drops. Maybe, let's try 4.
Okay.
Okay. And I have a Q-tip. And all I need to do
So you're just looking to make a thin layer on the top there?
Yeah. spread it around.
All right.
And you could do the whole thing or just half, whatever you like. You know, think about what a leaf looks like.
Yeah, you could even blend some different colors together if you wanted to.
Exactly. So once you've done some patina work like that, you can come in, like if this is a little flat or you want to shape this a little more, since it's annealed, we can come in and use our hands or our pliers. I've got some chain nose pliers here, some bent chain nose, to help you just kind of, you know, make the leaf into a little more of an organic shape. You know, the secret to these things is let them evolve. You know,
Right,
you
just
want to
keep working with it.
Keep working with them. So now we're just about ready to put some holes in these and finish these off.
Okay.
So I have a hole punch plier here, and this is, since this is 24 gauge metal, it's super malleable. So all I do is, you know, you can mark that spot that you're going for, but I'm just going to go for it. Come in and punch a hole right in the leaf, and I can do that with this one as well, just like so.
That's easy.
Pretty
so you're
easy.
creating a place for it to hang.
Yeah, we're going to turn these into a pendant.
Perfect.
So I've got, on the sample, you can see I've got 3 of the leaves suspended from a jump ring. And the jump ring, I used 14 gauge wire, and I wrapped it around my baling pliers. And I just made a little coil, and the coil just looks like so.
Yeah, so you can just use that to make your own jump rings so that everything matches.
Exactly.
I guess you could mix other kinds of metals too if you wanted to, but I think that is one advantage of the way that you did it, is that you can use all copper if you want to.
Yeah, all copper, exactly. I'm going to come in and release one of these jump rings by cutting it with my flush cutter. I'm going to flip that cutter over and cut that away. So I've created a jump ring right there.
All right.
Now the way that these go together, again, you can see on the sample, Katie, I have separated those leaves so they don't sit right one on top of the other.
Yeah, you can see there's a little bit of space in between so that they have more movement.
Yeah, more movement and have a nice, you know, a little bit of space in there. I've got my jump ring that I just made. I'm going to open this guy up, and I get that space by using a little spacer bead. And you can, here's the leaf goes on, spacer bead goes on, then, whoops, slippery little guy. Then,
You have your little stack.
yeah, I've got my stack, and I'll put one on the top like so. And I'll close this up so nothing escapes. But just use one spacer bead in between each leaf, and I think it gives
So
it
you
a
can
nice
start
finish
layering
too.
them up. And you have a special tip for us about how to make a ball pin too.
I do. I love the way that these head pins came out, and what I did here was I took a piece of 24 gauge wire and I balled one of the ends with my torch.
Okay. Let's see you do one end if you don't
Okay,
mind.
I would love to. Let's get our torch back in here. And I've got my tweezers, and I'm going to hold my wire in my soldering tweezers. We'll pop on the torch. And this goes really quickly because the wire is such a thin gauge. And you can see, I'm going to get that little ball right at the end. Let's pull it down right here. There we go. And I'm going to quench that, turn off my torch. Then, after I have the little ball on the metal, I'm going to go ahead and put on my pearl. Now, I hold that pearl in place with my soldering tweezers way up here, and let's turn that torch back on. And now I can ball this other end. Just like so.
That looks good.
Yeah, and then I'll go ahead and quench this guy.
And that's a great tip for making head pins of any kind. You know, you can make your own head pins
Yeah,
with just a ball at one end if you wanted to, of course.
exactly. We could just have it just like so. But you can see, here's the one that I have finished.
Looks good.
And then I just did a regular wire wrap. Got this guy down to the bottom, made my loop, and then added that little dangle right there
Let's
on
see,
the leaf.
if you don't mind, go ahead and wrap that guy up.
Sure. Let's go ahead and grab my
Here's some
bent chain nose. Oh, perfect, thank you.
You're welcome.
See that bent chain nose? I went ahead and made that little angle. Then I come around, make that loop, and pull that wire underneath. Now I have all of this wire ready to go, so you know what? I'm just gonna use it. And I'm gonna be messy, but you know, I'm gonna be intentionally messy with this. Wrap, 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 up and down this stem until I get to the little ball. And see how I push that little ball right into place? And you can see, look at that, how I have both the ends are nice and
That
finished
looks
that
great.
way.
It does look nice and finished, and it also looks really organic. I like the way that you use the greens. They kind of, you know, bring out that leafy feel too. It's really good.
And this just pops right on.
Let's take a little look at your finished piece too, and just talk a little bit about the way that you chose your beads, because it also looks like you used some different patinas on the leaves. So the one in front looks like it has some red.
Yeah, and you know, the top two are done with the torch.
Just with the torch.
And you know, it's kind of a random thing when you patina with the torch. You never quite know what you're going to get. So sometimes you get things that are a little more red, like that top leaf. Sometimes you get things that are a little darker, like this one. And I like to seal that patina in with a little bit of microcrystalline wax as well, just to buff the surface and give it a nice, you know, a nice finished look.
Right, and then it's also going to be wearable for longer.
Yeah, exactly. It'll stabilize that patina.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about your pearls too, because it looks like you combined some different pearls in your piece.
I
Really
did.
Pretty.
Yeah, well, as you know, I love to use pearls. And I thought that this piece really lended itself nicely to a finished project. So this necklace actually is a little long to wear. You know, it hangs a little low. So I thought mixing a different variety of pearls there, you know, and I just went to my bead box and found some cool pearls that I liked and threw in some spacers and finished it all up as a nice necklace.
Looks like nature's bead soup.
Yeah, exactly. We
right.
try and mimic nature for sure.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Kate. This has been a great project, and I feel like I'm ready to get started texturing and
Ready?
shaping.
Yeah, jump in with those dimpling pliers,
That's right.
Kate.
Very fun.